What do you use to measure flat?
Horizontal.
Horizontal. Yeah, there you go.
That's not a unit. What's the unit? Is it meters, inches, millimeters? That's a unit.
Horizontal. You measure the difference from that.
Okay, that's fine.
baseline.
Whatever.
Spades.
You all get it now.
Proving yet
Bio,
again that flat earth
cipher,
don't comport
foolish.
with what the rest of the world uses.
Listen. So this is how. Hold on. This is how we establish the measurement. Bev, tell it again because I don't want to steal it or
Well, measurement's a physical process, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Like
so what unit do you use to measure
from a calculation, right? Isn't it? A calculation is not a measurement. A measurement's a physical process.
What is the unit you use to measure flat, Bev? Do you use meters, inches, millimeters? What do you use, kilometers?
You use a tool called a level. That establishes a horizontal plane of reference.
That's not a unit of measurement.
You know that a level is level.
From.
Oh my day.
How do you know that a level is level then?
Well,
you go and get it calibrated, don't you?
So you've got to use man-made stuff to calibrate this thing.
Well,
but
at the auto level, yeah, but not a water level.
No,
you wouldn't calibrate a water level.
The one that doesn't work for you. The one that didn't work for you.
Work for me.
How is this hard to understand? I mean, do you understand what Bev is saying? What you're saying? We're not talking about numbers 1, 2.
You don't really. No, it's not about me, Chemo. It's all about you. Remember?
All right, but we're not using measurements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All we're establishing is the horizontal. The horizontal.
Well,
do you understand vertical, horizontal?
The horizontal or a horizontal is not a measurement. This is what we are trying to work out.
It's your baseline.
What is a horizontal? How many whatevers makes a horizontal?
Position.
3 Bev's arms makes a horizontal? Or
doesn't work like that, Mippet.
Perpendicular to a vertical, right? What else do you need? We can go right down to the basics if you want.
And why
I think it needs to be done.
Why are you asking a question you already know the answer to?
They don't know. That's what I'm saying. They don't know this stuff. They need to be taught this.
Real quick, just
they don't know millimeters and centimeters.
For the claim that I made for the Panama Canal with the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans at different heights, essentially, I did provide measurements and the scientific study for scientific journal for these claims in the chat. Crit, I'm still waiting for your claims and a source for your claims.
For what are you talking about now? I mean, you're trying to say at sea level isn't sea level now?
No, you can have sea level in reference to what sea you're talking about. I have no problem with that. What I'm saying is the deviation of these sea levels are measurable across the Panama Canal.
Check the Suez. That'd be easier one to check, wouldn't it?
No, my claim was Panama Canal.
Rather than the locks.
For the Suez, I would ask for measurements, please.
You struggle, don't you? Because you don't know how elevation's measured.
No,
you're struggling.
Whatever your claim,
how would you start off with sea level and you work to the center, don't you? You don't work from one end to the other and look, the sea level's wrong.
Whatever your claim is, I'm going to ask for measurements of that claim, as I have made a claim and I have provided measurements myself.
Okay, Bio, hold on, Bev. Sorry, Bev, hold on. Bio, I know you like to just do your little monologue thing, but can you try and be a bit more friendly?
No, thank you, Chemo. No, thank you.
Okay. Try not to do your thing as much so we can get a conversation.
No, thank you, Chemo. I don't monologue. I make a claim and I provide evidence and I ask for your evidence for your claim. That's what I do.
Yeah, that.
There we go. There's another one.
Like that. How you just made it short like that.
So again, Crit, I speak in memes and pictures. I would like measurements, please, because I can make pictures too, but it means nothing.
Oh, are you ready to get a comprehension test of this link you sent?
So there's measurements there. Elevation 600 feet. Elevation 577 feet. Elevation. The numbers are there. What do you want?
I would like measurements that were done.
Measurements.
Did you
the numbers. They're there.
In a meme,
they've been done. Please. What's up with you?
Again, I can take that picture right now and put it into Microsoft Paint and just change the numbers, and then I could provide it to you and expect for you to take it as fact. That's not what we do.
No, that'd be dishonest shit of you, wouldn't it?
Right, which is why I don't speak in memes. I speak in science, That's why
you haven't given me
what
the data
evidence do you require then? Go on.
What's the data here?
Of the claim. If you're going to claim,
give us the standard of what is it that you're after that you would require us to provide right now? There's numbers there
of equal.
What do you want?
Equal quality of what I've provided to you.
What have you
not
provided?
Pictures and it's not memes.
What have you provided?
He did a publisher's summary where it just says that there is a deviation between sea levels, but it doesn't give me what this measurement is. How many is it?
Which is what I provided.
Is it 5 biodual arms?
Which is what I provided in my source, and I would appreciate.
Yeah, show me in the source. I clicked your source. It doesn't say anything about that.
I would also open yours when you provide it.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything here. All it says here is like I can read it word for word. It's only 1 paragraph long.
Can we just get an establishment of how this works, right? A measurement.
So Britt, what
elevation.
you did is read the abstract, and you didn't go any further than that.
No, I read the summary right there. That's all I needed to know. That's what you linked. You linked the summary here.
So you only
do you have
the
a
abstract.
Do you have a page number?
Honesty. Thank you.
Do you have a citation, a page number? What exactly are you pulling out of this that you think is a slam dunk here? That there isn't.
That's a good
sea
point.
level doesn't mean sea level.
That is a legitimate point to make, and I won't obfuscate from that. I will find the information and pinpoint it exactly for you. That's fine.
Okay, right. Well, I can only talk for what I know. So can I let you know what I know, how this actually works?
Yeah.
Live in the UK. The UK has a call it a vertical datum. They're all vertical datums because they're measured vertical. It's a vertical change in elevation. Vertical change in height is a change in elevation. You would agree?
And how's that measured?
Would you agree that elevation is a vertical change in height? So as in
yes,
1 foot
I would agree.
sea
That's
level
fine.
is actual vertical
I think
height.
we want to say from what? What's your baseline?
No, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, it's perfectly fine
Right.
because you can deviate
So-
in the negative, but then when you talk about negative and positive deviations, then you have to have a reference. But if it's just elevation, then you can
Who's
talk about a
this?
vertical.
Okay, we get it. And
Who
how's
is that
it
that we're
measured,
talking
Bev?
to there?
Don't worry about it. But how's it measured once you have
find
your
a tool.
baseline?
You find a tool called a level.
That's
And that
man-made.
establishes
Yeah.
a horizontal plane of reference. You then measure the difference vertically from that, and you mark that as a change in elevation.
Would you involve trigonometry when you do this, like a calculation?
No, you would just put a measuring rod there and look through the device and read the number, like you do when you're measuring. You know, when you've got a ruler and you put it on a piece of paper, you just read the numbers off it. That's a measurement, right? Now, you start at one point. I mean, it used to be the benchmark in the UK, used to be in Liverpool at the docks, strangely enough. Maybe because of a canal system that they had there. But then they moved it down to I always get that wrong. Way down south. So that's the point, the elevation point for the entire UK.
Well,
everything is measured from that point. So if you get 400 feet above,
sorry, this is a bit monologue-y. Can I just get a point?
The datum. Well, I found that thing for you as well, Foolish. All right.
So I've just basically looked at what you were talking about there. I only know 3 different types of leveling that's generally done in surveying.
You've never done any, have you?
I'm just basically, doesn't matter.
Okay.
This is the research side of it. I don't think you've done any.
Just
I don't see you doing much of it, but that's fine.
Dude,
so the 3 types
I've
of
got
leveling
qualifications
that
in
again,
it.
can you please let me finish my point and stop interrupting? So barometric leveling is one method. Trigonometric leveling is another method, and spirit leveling is the third method. What other methods of leveling do you know of?
Differential leveling. Have you never heard of that?
No, I
never
haven't.
heard of
That's why I'm
reciprocal leveling. Brilliant.
But I'm
You
going in.
You seem to have only just read a really basic book there, Foolish.
No, I'm asking a question. Why are you trying to make this silly? I didn't claim to be an expert in surveying.
No, you claimed that
I asked a very
Blue
simple
was
question.
an expert, didn't you?
No, I basically said that Blue knew about leveling and knew about surveying.
You said Blue was a qualified surveyor.
No, I did not. And
Yes, you
you've yet
did.
to provide.
Yes, you did.
You've yet to
Okay,
provide.
all right. I will
Provide
go and
the
get it for
timestamp
you
from
right
it,
now. All right.
And you keep saying that you're going to go and get it, and you never do. So you're going to go and get it now.
Absolutely. What are you doing?
I'm waiting.
Okay. You want to carry on talking about elevation or?
No, I want you to go and get that.
Okay. Now the UK only has one.
No, I want you to go and get that timestamp because you said you were going to do it like 5 days ago and you didn't. You then repeated the claim.
Dude,
I've listened
I asked
to that.
you to go and get it, didn't I?
No, because it's not my claim. It's a claim you're making. I listened to that video and I didn't hear myself saying that. I gave you a timestamp of when I was speaking and I didn't say anything about Blue being a professional. So I'm interested in the timestamp you have in that video that is saying what you claim I am saying, because I think you are wrong. I'm not going to say you're lying. I'm going to be generous and say you're mistaken.
There you go. Everybody in the chat there, it should go to a timestamp. And you should hear something about...
Yeah, it goes to a timestamp 1 hour and 11:50.
Is a structural engineer and
they measure
surveyor,
triangles.
and he disagrees with you.
He's a structural engineer and a qualified surveyor. I never knew that. I've never heard that. He's never had a chat. I've always been up for chatting to all of the surveyors or anyone with surveying qualifications in this, just so we can...
Blue Marble Science is a structural engineer and
they measure
surveyor,
triangles.
and he disagrees with you.
With what? Did everybody hear that?
Yeah.
Even trigonometric uses a right angle triangle, right, with the horizontal and the vertical.
I mean, simple leveling, differential leveling, flyer leveling, profile leveling, precise leveling.
Science leveling, right?
So when we make these measurements,
did everybody hear the thing that Foolish asked for?
I didn't mean to talk.
So yeah, he said he was a structural engineer or something,
and a qualified surveyor.
By the way, Merrill,
so what you're saying is when we're doing these measurements, we can make calculations.
What we're saying is we're just waiting for the apology off Foolish.
I'm sorry. I thought I was bringing up a really good point about something that you claimed earlier.
Yeah, Foolish wanted us to stop all of that conversation for me to get that though, didn't he? Made a point of it.
That's my fault. I apologize.
You know one thing I noticed, Bev, about these leveling devices? They're not curving.
No, they're all like straight right lines and a horizontal plane as well.
Very unusual.
Yeah, it's almost as though some curvature might be calculated, right? It's definitely not measured. We know that. You can only measure from point to point, which is a straight line.
We know
measurement.
that we've observed it for over fucking, 70 years now.
It's Foolish gone. Surely you've heard that. You mean, you heard yourself say it. Oh, he's gone. And
surely you heard me say that we've observed the curve now from outer space.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Loads of people say that,
And that's the only rebuttal, little giggles.
So can I ask Bev something without
the outer space thing's ridiculous.
You take over, Bio.
Yeah. Can we get back
most
to the
likely
real
not Biodual?
Where's Foolish?
I just don't want to be interrupted again because I've tried to ask 3 times now, and I don't mean to be interrupted. That's my fault.
Yeah, but Foolish said that Blue said something he didn't, and he made Bev get the video, right?
Right, just like when you wanted measurements and I provided measurements. And
called me a liar the other day, like loads. He definitely didn't say that.
You are a liar.
Turns out he did say it.
Like, because you were lying about not knowing Soundly's fucking company, and yet there were tweets made by you.
Soundly's company? What the fuck are you talking about? Just make some shit up. Go on.
Was it not Soundly? Have I got the wrong person? Sorry, there you go. It's Sly, not Soundly.
Yeah.
So yeah, you were making up some shit about his company.
I don't even know what you want about.
Everybody made up some shit that he had a phone call.
No,
Yeah, they
Stop
did.
interrupting, you fucking
We've
cunt.
got it. We've got
You
it.
said in here on voice the other day when you were being confronted that you didn't even know the name of Sly's company. Yet we have tweets. You don't, do you not?
No.
You don't? Oh, so who tweeted the fucking company name?
What?
Was that not you?
He had ITT on his T-shirt. Is that?
Yeah.
Are you saying that's his company?
You didn't even know that was his
Are
company.
you saying that is his company?
Don't ask me questions when I'm asking you questions, liar. You were the one in here the other day saying you didn't even know the company name, yet we've got tweets of you with the name on it.
Yeah, I say he's got an ITT jumper on.
All right.
I said that would look really bad if that was a company jumper.
And you were in here 2 days ago saying that you don't even know what the name was.
I did it at ITT, who was a Japanese guy. And I knew that couldn't be his company.
You lying piece.
So why did you have ITT if you knew it couldn't have been the company?
Are you affirming that is his company?
No, you got busted. Just man up and admit it, and everyone will move on. How about that?
No, let's
I think
move on.
he's playing a little word game here when you say his
We're
company. When you say his company, I think Rizzler is talking about the company that he works for.
Well, I say I don't know.
And Bev is trying to make it mean the company that Slice Barcane owns. And that's the little word game that he's playing.
What a dishonest.
What are you talking about, guys? Anyway, back to foolish. Foolish.
I'm happy to admit that I was wrong. That was an error.
Yeah, you see, we all heard it. Foolish.
Thank you.
No, that's all right. If I'm wrong, I own it, Bev. I don't try and equivocate and run away from it.
Can you apologise?
I man up and I face it directly and I say I'm wrong. In the same way as you should do about.
All right. So now he's an
ITT.
expert. Blue's an expert. What was the point?
So the point is the points that I've been posting in the chat, which is Bev's definition of level and horizontal being synonymous is not true. That's not taught in surveying. It's not something that they teach. The fact that when we're looking at leveling, there are 3 main types. I don't believe that you do differential elevation without some form of mathematics involved. Because normally it's the angles that we're concentrating on from what I've read on surveying, but I'm no expert.
Please don't do that. There's no different angles in differential leveling.
And that's what you use. And what is the main method? What is the main method to establish elevation differences in surveying?
Differential leveling.
So differential leveling is the way that they would that is not to say always, because that's an unfair statement and I don't do that, but that is differential leveling is the main way that they track differences in elevation.
Absolutely, yeah.
Differences. Cool. No, I'm fine with that. I'm now going to go and look it up so at least I can have an idea of what you're talking about before I speak.
Yeah.
All right then, Bio. Wanted to say something.
Do you want me to get a couple of yeah, there you go. Mel's got one. I've got a couple I'll put in there as well to show you. It's good that you guys are looking into this. It's weird it's took you so long.
Yeah.
It was just trying to. They were looking for numbers.
I was saying
they were looking for numbers. Yeah.
But have a look at that there. See that? That's a profile view for elevation. See it? It says known elevation BM at the bottom left-hand side.
Yeah.
And see what's that line at the bottom?
So you're happy
to sea level.
It's a datum, innit? It's a straight line. And then all the other known elevations are measured from it.
Mm-hmm.
In differential leveling, what's the sort of maximum distance you'd be taking that observation from?
Sorry?
In differential leveling, how far away are you making these differential observations? Because I'm seeing.
You mean there, like where that?
I'm seeing thousands of feet.
Thousands.
Yeah, I'm seeing an example here with 3,200 feet.
Yeah, well, that distance there. If you look at that picture that I've just put in there, right? The line of sight. You can see he moves. He has to keep moving because of the differential. You can't see the levels at that higher level, so you can only go so far with your rod. and also with the limit of the optics of the tool you're using. And most of the tools are only 32 times scopes.
Yeah.
So you want a maximum of about 50 meters either side. So that makes about 100 between. But I mean, some people come down less. Some people do less. I mean, you can do way less if you want. You can't do much more though. About 50 meters is about the limit. If you're willing to be millimeter accurate, which you want to be you want to be as accurate as possible.
When you're becoming a surveyor, are you taught about things like earth curve?
No, they're all surveying's done on a plane surveyor. I mean, all of these tools are plane surveying tools.
But they teach you about surface level, don't they, in surveying?
Yeah, horizontal.
No, surface level.
No.
Surface level in surveying it comports to the curvature of the earth.
No, it doesn't. It's just horizontal.
And that's exactly what it says in the fucking book. When you look at
it may say that in the book,
I will take it.
Surveying
I will
is
take it directly out
practical.
of a text course book.
Yeah.
There you go. Level surface. A level surface is defined as a curved surface which at each point is perpendicular to the direction of gravity at that point. That is what they teach in surveying.
Do you read books about going walking?
Isn't it?
That's directly from a surveying textbook.
It's a very
because I'm trying to learn this. I'm
surveying.
trying to understand it, Bev.
Yeah, well, go and get a level. It's the best way to learn it.
I'm starting off by reading the method that you guys use, which is what you were taught. It's how you started, and you said this was not taught, and I do not believe that is true.
Very practical.
I
right?
think
you can't really. It's one of those things you can't really read.
No, it's okay because now he's trying to involve gravity when doing survey.
I'm just quoting.
I'm just doing
from
reality
a surveying
stuff.
Textbook, which is what is used to teach surveyors.
Yes,
So
you're invoking G-gravity. That would require.
I'm invoking a
can I just a minute? Can I just say, I'd choose if I was to teach anybody about surveying or anything like that, I would definitely choose the practical. Like when you get taught surveying, if you ever choose to do that, the book work will be about 5 or 10% of it. The rest of it is practical out in the field.
But it's in that coursework because you said they don't teach you about this, and I'm bringing up a citation where it's actually in the material.
I'd say I never got taught about anything like that.
Well, would that be fair to say then that there's a theoretical aspect to
this might explain why there's a problem.
There's a methodology.
When I was doing it, there was no such thing as GPS. It was a fair few years ago. So I mean, I don't like.
Well, that takes you back.
You may be using one of the newer textbooks, but like they didn't say anything about curvature at all. Just horizontal.
Well, there's one from 2018, Bev, that actually says the same thing that Druss has just pointed out. Civil engineering, surveying, and estimating and costing. And
brilliant.
Guess what? Says it's curved surface.
What is actually
it's inconvenient, that isn't it?
Could we just get some clarity on what actually is being said?
You can go back to textbooks from the 1950s, the 1960s.
Here we go.
And they say the same thing.
This is
I'll read from the definitions. Level surface. A level surface is the equipotential surface of the Earth's gravity field. It is a curved surface and dendry element of which is normal to the plumb line. Level line. Any line laying on a leveled surface is called a level line. This line is level to the plumb line, direction of gravity at all points.
Gravity. Horizontal
plane. Any plane tangential to the level surface at any point is known as the horizontal plane. It is perpendicular to the plumb line, which indicates the direction of gravity.
Gravity.
And this is what they teach, Bev.
Yes,
this is what they teach.
This is probably
gravity,
getting wrong.
curved surfaces,
what you've
all
just
of it. Debunk flat Earth.
What you've
it's taught.
What you've just said is one of them is normal to the plumb line, and the other one is perpendicular to the plumb line.
Inclusive of gravity.
Guess what? Normal and plumb are the same fucking thing.
No, it's a single plumb point. So the difference is there, Bev, and this is where I think
normal means orthogonal, means perpendicular, means right angles, means straight lines.
My point, Bev. Thank you. So what I was trying to say there is that's to a single plumb line. When you're looking at the curved surface of the Earth, we're talking about multiple plumb lines. So when I'm taking a horizontal, it's perpendicular to a single plumb, is it not?
When you're taking a horizontal,
is it not?
How often do you take horizontals?
Is it not?
Or do you just do that through a book?
Is it not
taken from a single plumb line? A horizontal is established from a single plumb, not multiple.
No, a horizontal is established with a tool called a level.
Yeah, and it's taken
a
from
plumb
a
line
single
doesn't
plumb.
get involved in it. No.
Oh, so you're saying that your level is not plumb?
I'm saying a water
level. Are you
level
saying that your level is not plumb?
Fuck all to do with a plumb line.
Are you saying that your level is not plumb?
Yes, definitely. The water level doesn't need to be plumb.
I'm talking about an auto level or a theodolite.
I was talking about a water level. I was talking about water level because that's the most physical we can get. The one the closest in touch with reality, right? Nobody can mess about with that. Press buttons and switch curvature on and off. You can't do that with a water level. It doesn't ever need calibrating. It calibrates itself.
Cool. So you reject surveying equipment. I agree. Okay, that's cool. You don't do that.
I think
that's
you've
fine.
just got that wrong there, haven't you? Like, can we not? Surely everybody understands what a water level is.
How would you do a differential elevation using a water level?
You just mark the levels, right? It'd be easier with a water level. I think, anyway. I think a water level would be more accurate
you think it would
over
be
larger
easier, cheaper,
distances.
and quicker? No, I'm just talking about your standard 50 meters.
Oh, well, yeah. In that case, then a 100-meter water level would be better. Because you get 100
and you think
meters
that would be cheaper and easier than.
In fact, you could check one with the other, couldn't you? You could almost calibrate. You could almost calibrate an auto level with a water level.
Crit, you're avoiding every single question. You think it would be cheaper and easier to do that than to do that over 50 meters than to use a theodolite? If I've got to do, say, 50 or 60 readings in a day.
Yeah. It'd be cheaper to a water level. It'd be cheaper. About 18 quid. Tube of what?
I'm talking about man time.
Oh.
You don't really understand. You don't really understand the cost of an operation, do you? I think this is probably an area you're not very good at by the sound of it.
If you would come
do much
watch the proof,
project management?
You'd see this whole conversation would be.
Do you do cost planning and project management?
For what?
For anything.
Why is that relevant?
Because I'm talking about the operational efficiency, and you don't understand.
Operational efficiency of what?
I'm now trying to establish what your knowledge of this area is,
or some sort of test, or you're reading books. Have you read a book about cost-effective analysis
Bev, and I'm feeling that you're not expressing your understanding.
Buying water pipes and filling them up with water.
This is
foolish.
Great.
I know you're.
I wouldn't hire Bev to do any surveying if I needed a job done. Honestly,
I wouldn't either. I'm a carer, so I mean, I'd be absolutely rubbish. I wouldn't be able to do it.
No, the reason I'm asking this question is for a very good reason. And that's that, to move something that is a physical thing that is over 50 meters long requires lots of people to do that. It's not easy, it's not going to be cheap, and it's not going to be very efficient.
A water level.
This is why.
I can get 400 meters on a little hose pipe reel.
This is why we use
50 meters is nothing.
I haven't finished my point, but thanks for over talking me, Bev. Are you going to continue to do this?
I don't know. What
why
are you doing?
Keep over talking me. I'm talking to Mel.
I'm sure we started off about
you feel you need
elevation and how we measured elevation. Now we've ended up cost analysis of you buying pipe.
I think the best thing to do, Bev, would just be to let Dross get his points out, and let's be hospitable and
I really
generous.
appreciate that. I'm trying to be nice. I really am trying to be nice with you, Bev. I really am. So, Mel, the reason I'm making this point is when you look at doing a repetitive activity, you look at the efficiency of it. This is something I do on a fucking day-to-day basis. And one of the problems you have, and the reason, I can see why I'd use a theodolite over a tool like a water level. And the reason that I would use that is I can move a theodolite quickly, I can have my sight sticks move quickly, I can take many more measurements in a day using a theodolite than I can using a water level, because I physically have to move that water level, then recalibrate it every fucking time I move it, and that would take more time. So therefore, it is less efficient. Therefore, this is why we use the instruments we do.
Did you say recalibrate a water level?
Yeah, well, you're going to have to make sure it's back on level, aren't you?
Recalibrate? How would you... I'm filling the water distiller up. How would you recalibrate a water level?
How would you recalibrate? Well, I'm assuming... Yeah, I'm assuming that if I've got something like a chorobat, which is something I do know about, it's the only water level that I'm familiar with. It's the only water level I've ever touched. With chorobat, I need to establish what my plumb is, so I can then establish what gradient I want to employ using that chorobat. So I need to calibrate it to level before I then set my increase in the angular elevation of the slope that I'm determining for an aqueduct. That's something I know about because I've studied that.
What about the calibration? What was that?
When you talk about leveling a water level, that's pretty breathtaking.
Yeah, but the reason is, do you know what a chorobat is, Crit?
Yeah, was that the position in surveying?
Dude,
so
let's talk about the calibration.
A chorobat was a water level used by the Romans, and it was their main instrument that they used to build aqueducts. When you build an aqueduct, you want to make sure you've got a slope that's not too steep because it causes lots of wear and tear, and not too shallow because then the water won't flow and it'll stagnate. So they invented
to a mile or something like that. I think they did.
And what they used the chorobat for was to determine the angle of slope.
Wow! What of a 1 inch in a mile?
Really, really accurate. I'll go and look it up. It's a really interesting.
You think that was done by an angle measurement? How do they calibrate it?
You can go and look it up, Bev. I can send you a link if you like.
That's what you were meant to be explaining. How you calibrate a water level.
I just told you. You need to establish your plumb for the chorobat. Yeah. Once you've done that, you can then set your angle of slope.
Do you not know what a water level is?
Do you not know what a chorobat is?
Please tell me you know what a water level is.
Please tell me you know what a chorobat is, because that's what I'm talking about.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think he does foolish because one of his mates used to have that as his username. So before you go too far down that road, I think he knows exactly what one is.
Foolish, you tell us you know what a water level is.
There you go.
I never heard that word
link
before.
for a chorobat. And look at that. It's got the nice little plummy bits on, and that's what you establish your angle for your slope. Isn't that cool?
Do you know what a water level is?
See that chorobat there, which is a type of water
brilliant.
level?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Which is showing the angle of the slope using those plumb lines. Yeah, isn't that now an interesting thing that disagrees with what you were saying earlier?
It's not really. Where's the water?
The water's in the table-y bit.
Not spilling out.
Nope. That's obviously just an artist impression. Don't take that as too much reality.
Is that water on a slope? Is that water on a slope? I'm just there's a water level device, and do you want to actually see one? They're fantastic. Bet you'll love it. There you go. Just a fucking tube. Foolish.
And the chorobat itself is basically 2 vertical lines at one end and a horizontal line in the middle, connected. Like a handle on a suitcase.
So foolish. When I was talking about a water level, what you do is you put some water in a tube, and the water equalizes out. Equipotential, yeah? Even altitude. It's 2 points, one at each end. They're both neither higher nor lower than the other. Just 2 points. Sounds a bit like geometry. What was it?
So why
a straight line?
Why don't they use water levels in professional surveying?
What do you mean professional surveying?
When you're doing professional surveying to establish elevation, I've never seen someone use a water level to do that. Most of the time when I've seen someone like, some of the big construction firms, WSP,
it's not really that practical, is it?
Sprinkerhoff, Amy, those kind of guys, they all seem to be using theodolites for that.
Yeah, although it's lower tech, than the laser level.
So why do they use theodolites and not water levels?
Because they're a replacement, aren't they? So you don't need to carry 100 meters of water around with you.
Because it's easier, isn't it? More efficient. Yeah, which is the point that I was making 15 minutes ago, which you tried to deny.
Fantastic, but how do you
Thanks for coming around
calibrate
to common
water
sense.
level? Foolish. You were on about calibrating them. How do you do that?
You've got to verify that you've got the right amount of liquid back in your water level. You've got to make sure that it's now working correctly before you utilize it. Surely you do that check. Make sure there are no air bubbles in it. I don't know. I'm going to say that there are things that probably could do that.
It's not a calibration, though, is it?
Well, it's not a calibration. It's making sure the tool's working correctly, and that's part of it.
Calibrates itself. It's like
I don't know, but let him answer. Let him answer how he would calibrate the water level.
I've just said you make sure it's working correctly. You make sure you got the right amount of liquid in. You make sure you got no air bubbles in the pipe. That's calibration. That's making sure your instrument is accurate before usage.
Accurate. That's the calibrations after the accuracy, isn't it? How do you make sure that your water level is what do you call it? Level.
By making sure there are no air bubbles in the pipe for starters.
Oh, so you just let the water do what it does naturally?
No, so calibration just is when you have like a 0 or a marker and you're setting the measurements in gradients in a grade. So how are you doing that setting so it goes back to 0? What are you doing?
I would start off with a position where I've got the 2 points next to each other. I'll make sure that the liquid is equal on both sides when they're right next to each other.
How?
That's a form of calibration. That takes me to my 0 point. Now I'm going to start to take those pipes away from each other to the points of observation.
Okay.
And now I can take my measurement. So that's a form of calibration, isn't it?
So you're saying, hold on.
So I'm establishing my 0 base to 2 objects next to each other, and then I'm showing the fact that is then 0.
So you're saying level is 0?
No, I'm saying that's how I would make sure that I've got a 0 on my water level.
So Sci-Fi, are you listening?
Seems like a reasonable level.
All right, Drush, you made your point. All right.
Would you disagree with that?
Hold on. So Sci-Fi, you hear what he just said? That he's going to calibrate it to make sure it's 0. That's the measurement.
Yeah, that's specifically what the measurement of level, right?
Yes, that's how when Druss knows it's level, it's 0 cipher when he's calibrated it.
Yeah, and when it's there, right, that water surface would be horizontal, right? Perpendicular to the plumb.
I'd like to ask Bev a question because that was my guess at how I'd probably do it. Bev, what do you think of that guess?
What,
as a method?
Water in a tube. I just wait until it evens out.
Yeah, there's 2 measurement points I bring right next to each other so I can compare them next to each other.
I wouldn't need to do that. I'd be absolutely certain that the water would do that no matter what. No matter how far away one end of the tube was than the other.
As someone that doesn't use water levels, is that not a good method?
Yeah. So we would call that an even elevation? An even altitude?
Yep, so I'd expect on an even elevation, my two measuring points on my water level are going to read exactly the same when I've got them next to each other.
Okay. Now, would you, because you've got 2 points there, that's very Euclidean geometry like, would you say it's the shortest distance between those 2 points?
No, because it's going through the tube. The tube doesn't have to be dead straight.
No, I mean the actual level surface would be the shortest distance.
No,
like a
because
hydrostatic equilibrium
I could take that at a slight angle, and it wouldn't make any difference to the length if I'm a degree up.
An
or
angle,
degree
no,
down.
because they'd have to be at an even altitude, right? You can't have one higher or lower because the water would, it'd even itself out again, wouldn't it?
It would show the difference in the elevation. Yeah.
No, if you moved one end up or down, the water would find its own equilibrium again.
But that would show the difference in the level between point A and point B, wouldn't it?
If you measured from that point to the ground, to the surface, yeah. Because that.
Yeah, so point A is my reference point, point B is my differential, and now I'm going to show whether that's at the same elevation point or a higher elevation point or a lower elevation point.
The water would give you something to measure from. Right?
Yeah, so I can say if I've got my point A of my water level at position 1, and I've got my point B at position 2, so I can then say whether point B is higher or lower or level to point A.
Not of the water level, like, because you're just referencing the level there, aren't you? Point A and point B.
No, I'm working out whether my point B is at a lower elevation, an equal elevation, or a higher elevation to point A. Can I do that?
Up the level then.
Can I do that?
And then you measure from A to the surface.
Can I do that?
And you measure from point B to the surface.
Can I do that?
Can you
just by reading the water level? Just by reading the water level, can I not determine whether point A is higher or lower than point B, or equal?
No, the water level will give you something you can measure from. Right?
Yeah, but I can make the deduction.
Doesn't it?
Can I not make the deduction if the data point that if my water level is higher, equal to, or lower than where that water level starts, regardless of whether I'm measuring to the earth or not, I can just tell whether the top of that tube is higher, equal to, or lower than the tube.
No, the water in the level will equalize itself.
Yes,
so
giving me
the
differential in elevation.
Will be absolutely certain that they are both at the same level.
And if one of them is not, if
one is neither higher nor lower than the other.
Okay, so if one side is higher, then
one side
B is now
higher.
Point B is now higher.
Be level.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Yes, but in the tube, I can get a reading because of where it is in the tube.
I'm not tell sure me you whether understand this, foolish.
So if you've got one side higher, Druss, you've got trapped air, or you've got a pressure on there, haven't you? That's why. That would be the cause for why one is higher. That means you've done something wrong.
What I'm saying is that if you've got like a scale on the side of the tube, Chemo, yeah, and you've got that level. So when I'm bringing them together, I'm making sure that they're, the tops of the tube are dead level, everything, and then I'll get the same water reading across both tubes. Now, if I raise it up a little bit, yeah, that water is going to be at the same level as the other bit of water, but the scale in my tube, it's going to read at a different level. It's going to have a different reading on that tube. Yeah, because of where that water is in the physical tube itself.
Like, imagine this, right? Imagine you've got 100 foot of, or 100 meters, anything, of tube, but like, you only put 50 meters of water in it. Well, you can move the tube around as much as you want. The water's going to move and do what the water does. The water will always establish its own level.
Yeah, which means I can create a differential from that level, showing a difference in elevation based on where the water is in the actual tube itself. I don't know why this is so difficult. This seems to be really commonsensical, and I'm really concerned that I'm wrong. But you don't seem to be addressing the point. So if I've got water in this tube and I'm looking at the water where it reaches the height in the tube itself, how many centimeters from the end of the tube it is at either end. Yeah. If it's at 5 centimeters for my first tube.
The tube is just a container for the water. The water is measure.
But I can use that tube then as a way of measuring things, measuring the differential. So how much tube do I have at one end compared to how much tube do I have to the other end before I hit the actual water itself?
The water is what is does the work.
Can you address that specific point?
Level.
Where would the water be in the tube?
Do you want me to put my camera
if I've got something, if I've got a water level, it's 5 feet. If I've got a water level, it's 10 feet
how
long.
You can move the ends of the water.
Oh, Christ's sake, Bev. Bev, if I've got a water level, it's 10 feet long. Yeah, I take one. Now I notice on my point A that the water is 2 centimeters below the top of the tube. Now, and then I put them, and both of them are 2 centimeters from the top of the tube for both of them. Now, if I raise one up a bit, it's going to change how much tube there is on one side versus the other side.
Above 2 centimeters, it'll piss out the other side. Yeah,
exactly. That's the point. But up until that 2 centimeters, I can say that, oh, if there's 1.5 centimeters at one end and 2.5 at the other, they're not at the same level. One is of a higher elevation than the other. The other is of a lower elevation than the other. I'm talking about the top of the tube itself from the point of view of elevation.
I'm just talking about the water level. That's why it's called a water level, not the top of the tube above the water level.
I'm going to stop there because I'm now getting frustrated that you're not addressing the actual fucking question, and you seem to be going to be out of your way to be pedantic when I'm trying to make a very simple point. You're not prepared to listen, Bev. I'll go away. You can go and talk to someone else because you've been shown the definition of level and level surface from the actual textbooks. You've been shown information on geodetic surveying and spherical excess. You've been shown all of this information repetitively, and you still deny that it exists. So I'm going to stop there because I'm now very frustrated at your pedantry.
Thank you very much. You've been a great help. I didn't realize people didn't understand what a water level was. So easily, right? Sorry. I'll obviously have to do a video making it even more understandable.
Bev, I've never watched one of your videos in my life, and I never will. So don't worry about that. If I want to go and actually learn about something, I'll go to an actual textbook.
Should have read something. Yeah.
The problem. What I noticed here, the problem is if they think you're talking about flat Earth, they won't understand anything you say. You have to say, "I'm not talking about the Earth right now."
Did you understand my point? Did you understand it at all, Crit?
I kind of vaguely listened. I didn't hear all the points made. I was actually.
So why are you commenting if you weren't actually paying attention? You don't know what's going on then.
Well, I understood your point. I understood your point.
I thought it was a really simple point.
I just had like an epiphany in a way. Like a couple of years ago, I came into this room myself and was challenging the same sort of line that Bev is. And what my original argument was, there's a huge expanse in Australia called the Nullarbor Plain. So what I was saying was, how can the Earth be a sphere or an oblate spheroid if there's these large areas of land and water that, they're called plains? So it's like a circle with lots of flat
curvature and elevation are the same thing, shall we? Shall we do that?
Oh.
No, it's like there's a perfect.
No, you've never had that distinction.
He's not doing that, Jem. He's just talking about something.
Absolutely doing that. Yes,
there's a sphere with lots of flat bits.
He's saying because there's some flat land without any mountains or valleys, and people refer to it as flat, that means the Earth is flat.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying there are extensive areas.
Exactly, you're right.
And this is what happened last time. That there's extensive areas of the Earth that are not